Hi, everybody. I just wanted to give my thoughts on the whole Michael Jackson leaving Neverland and the allegations of child molestation. Being of the same generation as Michael Jackson, I'm only 6 years or so younger than he would be. Well, than he was also. So I remember when he was 11 and they had their first, big album, he and his brothers on the Jackson 5 with the ABC album and the fame since, and watching him become a solo artist, etc. And I gotta say this, for all the fame, for the idea of not having a childhood, okay, that's never an excuse to potentially hurt anyone, much less a child. If they, meaning he and his brothers and sisters, had been any way abused or treated badly by their parents, they could have done the following, which others have done. One, they could have gotten therapists, really good ones. They could have also filed to be emancipated at any point. You get a good attorney, you get enough money, it can happen. And not every child star gets into drugs or, possibly harms other people. Or not everybody who's been molested turns out to be someone who molests. Now, Jackson is alleged to have molested boys only. So far, no girls, not even the sister of Wade, Robson, have said they were molested. Well, again, um, to me that's in a way a red flag. To me, believing all those accusations. Um, because I think, you know, normally it's an age predilection, but I could see it being gender specific as well, which doesn't mean that if someone's gay, they're going to prefer, you know, boys, or if they were straight girls, if they were a pedophile. Um, Also, I take into consideration that they probably aren't going to be, or he wouldn't have been attracted to every single child that came across his path. Macaulay Culkin wouldn't be a victim, I could see that. He was famous, spotlight on him, so chances are, if anything had happened, I could see that being um, mentioned in the press or coming out a lot sooner. Same thing with people like Corey Feldman, who also was friendly with Michael Jackson. I can also see the idea that there's monetary gain in coming out, in taking them to court, and Jackson settling in '93 with the Chandler accusations. No, that doesn't mean guilt, but at the same time, if you've done nothing wrong, there's nothing they can exploit you with either. You know, um, I don't care. A doctor who hasn't done malpractice, even though it's got the insurance to cover that, wouldn't deliberately settle if he didn't do anything wrong. At least that's my belief. Um, Jackson's odd behavior. He didn't have a childhood. You know what? You could have quit the business. Once you're 18, could have stopped. Could have lived off royalties. So boo hoo, boo hoo. Okay. Identifying with children. Yeah, you could because you were once a child too. Your path was different than others, granted, but you still had a childhood. Just wasn't the average childhood of someone who's not well known. So, sorry. So I don't, buy that. Um, the idea also that gets to me in a way is all of the Jackson siblings, Jackie, Jermaine, Tito, Randy, Marlon, Janet, and Latoya. Well, maybe not Tito. Tito, I think, and maybe Marlon still look like older versions of the way they looked as young tweens and teens. The rest have all had plastic surgery. Well, I don't think any of them look like each other from Janet on, okay? To me, that's, like, what's wrong with you guys that you can't, keep your family? Because then your father turned around and changed his looks to match you anyway. So if he was such a bad guy, again, you could have taken him to court. You could have made accusations against him once you were grown, emancipated, all that stuff. If you were abused. Now, Robson and Safechuck, having, testified for him in the first trial and, was on for the defense and pro Michael, I can understand why they would be. Um, I could see the grooming in a way. Um, because when you're a kid, you don't. And there have been cases, you don't have the language. And Oprah's right, you don't have the language. About, not to be touched in your private area. But when you come to trust someone, and that's why there's the age of consent in most states, where if you're under a certain age, you can't give knowledgeable consent. So none of these boys could. So, because they probably wouldn't understand that it was wrong. They had some nice experiences, and, things happened because they were friends with Michael, and the price they paid, in a way, was this relationship with him that slowly became sexual. Their mothers, yeah, I have a problem with um, Joy Robson and Stephanie Safechuck. If Michael were alive and my own nephew was 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 14, 15, 16, there would be no way he would be sleeping in a celebrity's bed. And no way would he live with him for a year. Hell no. And he could say to me, I always get what I want, and I'd be like, oh, no, you're not. I would fight tooth and nail for that not to happen. And there's no way, no matter how close he thinks he could have gotten, or any kind of money he would offer, or favors he would do, that I would see myself letting a child in my family become that vulnerable or exposed to potential harm. Because to me, there's no logical reason that a man in his 30s would want to have a child sleep in their bed. Even when your family's traveling, you're in the suite with this guy, your child, and you're on another floor, and you're going to buy the excuse, so there was nothing closer? Okay, fine, there's nothing closer. Okay, Wade, James, let's go. You know, you don't let them stay with that person. So I think they're culpable too. Were they groomed? Yeah, maybe. I mean, Michael Jackson's really famous. I mean, like my generation's version, I think, in a way, of Elvis as far as popularity. Um, and his songwriting and all that. But, there's no way, you know, I would have looked at him and gone, no, you should sleep with adults. I also don't believe that the three children, Prince, Michael, or Prince, and then Paris and Blanket, are biologically his. Do not believe that at all. If they're his biologically, then these aren't glasses. This isn't a lanyard, okay? And I'm not in a laundry room, okay? Or a laundromat. So, and there's not a baby crying in the background either, if you want to believe that. They're not. Come on. They're not his biologically. He, you know, got a surrogate me somehow, however they do, where you have a surrogate, and you bought sperm, okay, the sperm bank. He basically bought those kids. And, I can understand where Paris has a couple times tried to kill herself. You know, God knows what she's been through with her other family members that are here. We don't know. And, you know, the Michael Jackson that died 10 years ago, well, almost 10 years ago, come this June, little Michael, the ABC era Michael, the one that sang Ben, that's the Michael Jackson I mourn. The one who could have had a life, normal life, if he chose to fight for himself once he got old enough, who could have gotten help, who could have had therapy, could have emancipated himself from a toxic family and environment, who didn't even think of harming children the way he turned out to do. And he thought he wasn't harming them, but he was. And I could see both those gentlemen having correlated that they were abused once they had children of their own. Because if you've ever been abused, you disassociate yourself. You do. With the child you were. The way those who, start abusing drugs in their teens, it stops them growing emotionally, mentally, and neurologically in a way because, the pain you're in that you're using this alters you and it changes you. And it stunts your maturity. So, I could see that these two are detached from it all because, again, Michael Jackson was someone that little kids did idolize in 88, 89, the bad and all that stuff, and the, smooth criminal tours and all that stuff and dangerous. And the fact that he had this cool home with, an amusement park and all these animals, to a little child, that is fun or seems fun. And then talented. And then, you get caught up in that when you're a kid because it doesn't seem real. And if they didn't feel that there was abuse, sometimes seeing it through someone else's eyes, then you realize, oh crap, that's what happened to me. So I do feel for those two young men, um, who could have testified later on, especially not Safechuck, but Wade Robson when he was 21, 22 years old. He wasn't a parent yet, but also I think at the same time, there could have been things said to him that, nobody would believe you anyway if you turned your story around or told your truth, like we're seeing now. How many people are not believing? But I believe that happens. Just my personal opinion. Um, could there have been DNA proof? I don't know. Back in 2003 when it was brought up again with that Avizo kid or Arnezi or whatever. But the last boy that accused him. So we really don't know. Um, but again, it would be hard pressed for a jury to convict someone like Michael Jackson. But those are just my thoughts.